Yeah, it's been a long weekend, man. I went back there to just kind of look at different notes, like what does God want me to say? And I left my iPad on all day, and so it was dead. And I thought, that's fine. We'll wing it. And I just was back there praying. I go, God, I want to say whatever you want me to say tonight, like anything. Like I want to just come in here and go, look, I'm not afraid of what anyone thinks about me. One of the first questions I ask myself before I speak is, am I more concerned about what the people will think of me or what God will think of me when this is done? Because it's very natural. Like, I teach a sermon prep class. I go, you guys get nervous before you speak? And they always go, yeah. I go, why are you nervous? Think about, why are you usually nervous? You're usually nervous because you're wondering, are these people going to like me? Am I going to do a good job? What are they going to think about me? It's me. And I go, when you get nervous, that's usually a sign of sin. It's usually because you're thinking about what they're thinking of you and how they're going to respond to you. Is it really like you're nervous because you want to please him so badly? And say, God, I just want to say whatever you want to say. Like if I die in the middle of this message, I want to know that my last words were the things that you wanted me to say about you. Now, I've had friends die while preaching. It's crazy. Just insane. So I don't walk up here and just go, okay, whatever. I go, no, God, I want to say what you wanted me to say so that if this is the last words out of my mouth, if this is it for me, I want to end it the right way. Man, and it very well could be. And I had one friend of mine, this is one of the freakiest things that ever happened. This was a long time ago. My buddy Stan Gerlach, he was I was in my office and someone calls me and says, hey, did you hear what happened? Stan Gerlach was at a funeral giving a eulogy and he died at the funeral. I'm like, what? And then, so I go rushing over to the house, over to Stan's house, and his wife's just getting home. Susie's just getting home, and she's crying. She can't believe it. She goes, my husband, he's gone. I'm hugging her. She's crying. Then her son, John, comes out, of the car. Big guy. He's like 5'10", No, I'm not that short, but he, this big guy, he comes out of the car. And he's crying. He's going, Francis, that was my dad. My dad, he's gone. And then he smiles. He goes, Francis, did you hear what happened? I go, no. He goes, my dad died while he was preaching the gospel. And he goes, I'm so proud of my dad. And so then I start hearing the story. See, what happened was he was given this eulogy at this funeral, and he's just thinking, man, there's probably people here who don't believe in God. I got to just lay it out for them all. And he starts talking about this guy and saying, look, I know he's in heaven. I know he's in heaven because I was the one that prayed with him. I was the one that led him to the Lord. And then he starts telling everyone in the room. He goes, listen, the reason why he's in heaven is not because he's a good person. We've all screwed up, but he believed that Jesus really did die on that cross for his sins and paid the penalty for his sins. He really believed that Jesus rose from the dead, and he really did change his life. And then he looked at the crowd. He pointed at them. I was told he pointed at them, and he says, listen, you never know the moment when God is going to take your life. And at that moment, there's nothing you can do about it. Are you ready? And then he sat down and fell over and died. Dude, talk about an exclamation point to your sermon, Man, and so his kids are trying to bring him back to life and everything, but it was just like he said. He goes, listen, you don't know when God's going to take your life, and at the moment, there's nothing you can do about it. And he's gone. And so John's telling me the story. Meanwhile, all these people are going into their house, because they just all heard the news, just like me. So we're all flooding in the house. You got grandkids, you got neighbors, family members, friends. They're all going into the house. And the moment I walk in, his wife Susie just like, Francis, can you say something to us? Everyone's crying. They're like, say something. And I'm like, all right, and I just grabbed my Bible. And the Spirit led me to Matthew chapter 10. Matthew chapter 10, where Jesus says, if you will confess me before men, I'll confess you before my Father in heaven. But you deny me before men, I'll deny you before my Father in heaven. But if you confess, you know what that word confess, it just means you speak up for me. If you confess, it's like a witness. Like if you witness like an accident, it's this guy, says, hey, I was standing there and a bus ran me over, and if you witness it, you would go, I saw it. The guy was standing there and the bus ran him over. You're a witness to it. In the same way, confessing is Jesus going, I'm the way, the truth, and life. No one comes to the Father but through me. So for me to confess Jesus is to tell you, look, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him. You speak up for him. And so I read that passage to all these people who are bawling their eyes out, and I go, you guys, can you imagine what a rush it must have been for Stan today? Think about this. 1 second, he's on the earth going, you guys, this is who Jesus Christ is. And then 1 second later, he's in heaven, and Jesus is going, Father, this is who Stan Gerlach is. Man, isn't that awesome? I tell you, I left that house that day going, I want to die like that, don't you? With my luck, I'm going to say something stupid and then die. But I just go, man, I want every word coming out of this mouth. I want it to honor him. I want it to be about him. Even right now, I'm just going, God, what do you want me to say to these guys right now? God, seriously, what do you want me to say to them? I'm looking at you right now and thinking, okay, some of you in this room, I will see you 100 years from now. And so I want to think, what do I want to say right now that I'll be glad I said 100 years from now? That maybe some of you will just go, man, I remember when we were on the earth? Remember that time when we were in that little church and you said that? Man, I finally got it. It clicked with me. Man, I want that moment for you. I want you to get it because this is not a joke. This isn't a game. I played a clip at one of the services. Hardly anyone heard it. But it was... I played this clip from a friend of mine a few weeks ago on a radio show. He's a radio host down in Southern California. And I want you to listen to what he says.
And isn't it interesting that secular science is addressing the question, does man have a soul? Is there such a thing as immaterial reality? And it's couched in the category of, is there life after death? It's the same question. I mean, look, you guys know I ride a motorcycle, right? So at any moment, especially with the idiot people who cross the diamond lane into my lane, all right, without any blinkers, not that I'm angry about it, but at any minute, I could be spread all over the 210. But that's not me. That's my body parts. And that key distinction undergirds the entire Judeo.
2 hours after he said that, he jumped on his motorcycle on the 210 freeway in the diamond lane, got hit by a car, and just had his funeral 2 weeks ago. You guys, all I'm saying is everything changes just like that. And the Bible says that, you know what? He alone is immortal. He alone possesses immortality. Like that means everyone right now, let's all take a deep breath, the deepest breath you can take. Let it go. You were only able to do that because he let you. Do you get that? Like he chose. to give me that breath. He's in charge. He alone possesses immortality. Every single thing that is alive is based upon this being in heaven going, I want him on earth for another breath. I just gave him another one. I just gave him another. You guys, what does that do to you, man? It's not like we're in control of anything. It says he's the only sovereign. First Timothy 6 says he's in control of everything. Man, I'm not in control of anything. I can't make anything happen. That was him right there. Every breath. I mean, I remember just one night I couldn't sleep, and every breath I was like, thanks for that one, God. Man, you gave me another one. You know, seriously, just for me to just get a dose of reality and go, man, who in the world do I think I am? Because I'm telling you, as men, sometimes we get a little power, we get a little position, and we start thinking like we're something, and it's so important to come back in the presence of God and go, who in the world am I? I'm one breath away. I'm one breath away, and I want to get this right. I want to stand at the end. Okay, this one time I had this dream. I don't know if you ever dreamt that you died. Okay. You have? I didn't. I had one dream my whole life where I died. All the other times, you know, you always get away. It's like, oh, I forgot I have wings. You know, I mean, it's your dream, right? You just make up stuff. Who dies? You know? But there was one time, I remember, only one time, I actually dreamt that I died. And, you know, your mind just kind of freaks out, like, what do you see? You know, and it was like all these lights coming at me. And all I know was during this dream, I was on my bed, on my knees like this with my face in my pillow. You ever have a dream like that where it's so real, like you're playing baseball and you like dive and, you know, you like act it out, and I'm on my face, on my pillow, just sweating, you know, like just a cold sweat, shaking. Why? Because I was thinking, oh man, I'm before, like God, I was picturing God in front of me. I was picturing that scene in Revelation 4 where it says there's 100 million angels around this throne, and there's this one being with lightning and thunder and fire and unapproachable light. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm there, I'm sweating. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am not afraid to die. I'm not. I'm secure. I'm totally cool with that. Shoot me. I don't care. Seriously, I know who I believe in. I've seen him work in my life, and I know I have a real relationship with him. Okay, so I'm not afraid of that. But you guys, it's still a scary thought to me to see God for the first time. And I'm telling you, my heart was pounding. I'm sweating. My face is in my pillow, going, man, I can't believe I'm dead. I can't believe it's gone. And I'm gonna look up and see him. And then you ever get in the dream where there's that moment where you think, wait a second, maybe this is a dream. Do you ever do that? Like your head, I don't know what happens in your brain, but you kind of click and go, this might be a dream. But you know how you don't know at the moment? And you're wondering, is this a dream or not? That's exactly what I'm going through as I'm sweating there. And so what do? You wake yourself up, right? You go, I'm just going to jolt myself and see if that wakes me up. And I thought, oh my gosh, you know, I'm going to count to 3, and I'm just going to pick my head up as fast as I can. So if I'm asleep, it'll jolt me awake. But I'm getting ready to count. I'm thinking, man, I'm going to count to 3, and I'm either going to see God or my headboard. And that's a crazy thought. Do you know what I mean? So I'm down there just sweating, going, oh my gosh, 1, 2, 3. I was like, oh, okay. You know, and I am just drenched at this point. Heart's pounding, going, oh, okay, I'm still alive. I'm still alive. I'm still here. You guys, I don't know what it's actually going to be like when we die. Okay, but let's just imagine. Imagine it happens like that somehow. Imagine somehow at the end you end up just face down before God. You picturing that? You're just face down before this God, terrified. And what if at that moment you hear God say, well done, good and faithful servant. come on in here and enjoy the riches of my kingdom prepared for you before the foundation of the earth. Man, can you imagine what you're going to feel at that second? To hear those two words out of God's mouth. Well done. I mean, at that moment, is anything else going to matter? Who cares, right? All the stuff we worry about, man, to hear those two words. See, I got to ask you, is there anything on this earth you want more than to hear those two words out of the mouth of God? Seriously, I mean, what else could you want more than that? And so I'm just going, man, am I living that life? Am I going after that? Because that moment's going to come. And I think about this all the time. I do. Maybe it's because of my childhood. A lot of you guys know my mom actually died giving birth to me. And then my dad, in San Francisco, my dad remarried. But then my stepmother died in a car accident in Antioch on the bridge right there. She died. And then my dad got married again. And then my dad died when I was 12 of cancer. So when I was 12 years old, my mom, my stepmom, my dad, they're already dead. Then in high school, my uncle murders my aunt and then kills himself. So at 15, 16, I'm just going, man, this thing's over. This thing's just going to be over. And every day, man, it just seems like something new where you go, it is not about this life. And I just got to get right with him. Man, I got to get right with him. Look, I played the game. Man, I did. Okay? I grew up in Stockton. I went to Lincoln High School. Go Trojans. And I remember, I became a Christian. I started telling all my friends about Christ. But you guys, I didn't really get what God was like. It was just like a youth group thing. It was just like a religious thing. And yes, I believed in Jesus. And yes, I believed he died on the cross for me. But I didn't understand what God was like. And so I was very casual about him. In fact, I even remember going into the ministry and 18 years old. I was an intern, and I went into ministry, and I didn't have a real reverence for God. I didn't have a real fear of him. And in fact, I had another job when I was an intern, because you don't make any money as an intern. And so I used to sell vacuum cleaners door to door. Do you guys have the Kirby guys come to your door still? I was one of those guys. Okay, right over there off of Lower Sacramento Road, by Hammer Lane over there in Stockton. I used to go door to door selling these vacuum cleaners for $1,400. This was back in the 80s. I'm going door to door trying to sell a vacuum cleaner for $1,400. But that was my day job, and at night I would teach the youth about God. And it was crazy. And I just remember how depressing it would get. And then I had, this guy who was, helping me sell. We were working together. And I remember we were at lunch one day, and he goes, hey, let's do something different at this next house. I go, all right, what do you want to do? He goes, let's pretend you don't speak English. And I go, well, what's that going to do? He goes, you just do the whole demonstration in Chinese, and I'll translate it for you. I mean, this is this big white guy, and I'm like, you don't speak Chinese. He goes, I'll fake it. And I'm like, okay. And I trusted him because he was an awesome liar. And so I went home, and I put on this Chinese jacket that Grandma sent me from Hong Kong that I could never wear in public, But I bring it. And you guys, seriously, with no rehearsal whatsoever, no plan whatsoever, we go up to this door, Ted knocks on it. He goes, hi, my name's Ted. This is my partner, Yan Fan, and that's really my Chinese name. Don't laugh at that. And he goes, this is my partner, Yan Fan, and I just go, and you guys, So we're in this house, right? And you ever been in one of those places where you can't laugh, you can't even crack a smile, but everything in you is dying? And so you're like turning your head. Dude, it was hilarious, And I just pull this thing out of the box, and I just start going. I go, 呢個吸塵機真係犀利啊, And Ted just starts making things up. He goes, he says it's a New Year's model, just came out, just going off on this thing. We were just doing everything we can not to laugh, right? But then it gets to this point where the lady asked Ted to ask me a question. And I thought, oh no! She's just something silly, like, hey, ask him how many brothers he has, and Ted looks at me and he just goes, it just starts making the dumbest sounds. And I just go, I laughed so hard. That was the dumbest thing I ever heard. Or I'm on the ground. We're both laughing now to where we're crying. Like, I can't believe that. We're just laughing. And then this lady goes, what's so funny? And he goes, I told him a joke. And we kept going. Seriously, I promise you. She didn't even know. We're doing this whole routine, There's one point, Ted goes to the bathroom and leaves me alone with her, and she would just go, hi, I'm like, oh, she goes, she'd look at me and she'd go, hello, and I would just be like, oh, hello, I would just play it along, right, Ted would come back. It's like, look what I taught Yanfan. Okay, I'm like, hello, table. It just, it was insane. Okay, long story short, we get to the end of the deal. The lady, bottom line, Ted starts making up the story at the end. Going, man, I've been trying to help Yanfan. This guy has been struggling so much, with everything else, and just laying it on, just this crazy story of me trying to make it in America. And this woman buys the vacuum. And I remember we get back in the car, we're driving away, just laughing. I'm telling him everything that happened when you were in the bathroom, this is what you did. We're just laughing all the way down the street. Then he looks at me, he goes, this works. We started doing this in every house. And we did get caught a couple of times. They're like, come on, man, that's not fair. Like, all right, you got it. But most of the time, we were able to pull it off. And most of the time, people would buy it. Just out of pure heart, like sadness. Because that's just what Ted did. And I remember houses where I remember one house when they asked, how much is it? Ted said $2,000. And the lady bought it. We pocketed an extra $600 over our $450 commission as it was. So we made over $1,000. But this is back in the 80s. Okay? So this is what I do during the day. Then at night, I'm like, kids, open up the Bible. And I'm... in my head, I'm thinking, it doesn't matter. They don't know. You see, this was my mindset. It was like, well, I can live this way. I can do this. But man, I still remember, okay, because no one was catching me on anything. But I still remember everything changing one day. And it set me on this different path. I remember the day I saw God. Okay, and I don't mean he came down and I saw him. I'm talking about the day when by myself I was reading this book and suddenly I read a description of him. And I thought, no one ever described him like that to me. I remember reading verses about God and just how it talks about how the whole world, he sits above the vaults of the earth and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers. I thought, man, so there's a being like that? You see, growing up in church, man, whenever I would think of God, I would think about those paintings I'd see on the wall, right? Of Jesus with long blonde hair holding sheep. And everyone telling you, oh, Jesus is your best friend, and aw, hug me, Jesus. This is all you think. No one ever described God the way the Bible described him. And I was like, man, are you kidding me? That's what God's like? You guys, it changed everything when I understood the holiness of God. Understand that the word holy means separate, set apart. That word holy, it's about like when Moses asked God, can I just see you? And God says to Moses, he goes, no man can see my face and live. That's intense. God says to Moses, do you understand who I am? Do you understand my holiness? I am so different from you, so set apart from you, that if I tore the roof off this place and let you just get a glimpse of my face, you would die. Same thing Paul says to Timothy. It's unapproachable light. You can't see him. You see his face, you die. Okay, that's not normal. Okay, that's holy. He's set apart. He's different. And that's why in every once in a while, though, he'll let a human being get some sort of veiled glimpse of him. And I remember looking at that in Isaiah 6, and it freaked me out. I mean, Isaiah 6 says, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord. He was sitting on a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Isaiah said, God, let me get a glimpse. He goes, I saw him. He was sitting on a throne. I don't know what you think of when you think of God. If you just think of these little pictures, if you think, oh, he's a little bit bigger than I am, or this or that, I don't know what you think you're going to see at the end. But Isaiah said, I saw him. He was sitting on a throne, not just like a little chair, but like this massive throne. In fact, his robe was so massive that it filled up the whole temple. Okay, understand, their robes just went to their ankles. It wasn't like this long flowing thing like there's a little God and whoa, he had a giant robe. He says, man, I saw the Lord. It's like, what if you walked in here tonight and you saw a being in this room and he filled up the entire place? Isaiah said, I saw him. I saw him. He was sitting on a throne, high and exalted. The train of his robe filled the whole temple. And he says, and above him, there were these high angels called the seraphim, and each of them had 6 wings. He says, with 2, he covered his face, with 2, he covered his feet, and with 2, he flew. He says, this angel, these high angels, man, they would take 2 wings to cover up their faces, 2 wings to cover up their feet. Man, they're covered from head to toe. Covered from head to toe in the presence of God. Because even the high angels are like, man, I can't look at him. I can't let him look upon me. I'm not worthy to look at him. I'm not worthy for him to look upon me. I'm going to cover myself up completely. And it says that one called out to the other. One angel was screaming to the other, and he goes, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the foundations of the threshold shook at the voice of him who called, and the house was filled with smoke. He says, one angel, as he's covering himself up, is screaming. The other one goes, holy, holy, holy God. This God is so far beyond us. This God is so set apart from us. This whole earth is full of his glory. He says he's screaming it so loud that everything is shaking. The whole place is filling up with smoke. I mean, would you just for a second put yourself in Isaiah's shoes? And imagine walking in and seeing this being, seeing those angels covering themselves up, screaming, holy, 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 and everything is shaking. The whole place is filling up with smoke. What in the world would you do at that moment? You guys, I hear people all the time say, oh, when I get to heaven, I'm going to ask God about this because I don't know why he did this to me. I'm going, really? You're just going to walk right up to him, right? Get your 12 wings out of here. Oh, I got to talk to... Are you kidding me? You guys, it's just that thought of, man, what am I going to feel when I see him and all that holiness and everything else? Man, it's not the time where I'm going to be questioning him about anything. And so, but look at what happened to Isaiah. What Isaiah did is he says, when he saw all that, he said, woe is me. I am lost. I am ruined. I'm a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Isaiah just goes, woe is me. Woe was the strongest term. It was like this guttural, like, oh. You ever watch, like, in sports or something, it's like when Joe Theismann, broke his knee, you're like, oh. Or, MMA, whatever. You're just like, oh. It's just that, oh, I am sick right now. He says, I am ruined. In the Hebrew, it literally means I'm about to be destroyed by him. And he says, because I'm a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and I just saw God. See, the first thing that you're going to be struck with when you see God is your own sinfulness. When you see how perfect he is, and how holy and how powerful he is, you immediately just go, you're going to kill me. You're immediately going to know all the things that he knows about you. All of the sin. See, when we hang out with each other, we can almost feel self-righteous. You're like, well, I'm not like that guy. I'm not like her. I'm not as bad as him. We always compare. But you know what it's like when you stand before a holy God? You know how even there's certain people in my life, they live such godly lives that I don't even want to hang out with them. Right? You feel guilty just being around certain people because they're so close to God, so right. Imagine being in the presence of perfection. And that type of power, you're just immediately like, oh, I'm sick. Here is a prophet of God going, I'm disgusting. He's going to kill me. And I love what happens. Verse 9 says, one of the angels, the seraphim, flew to me, having in his hand a burning coal that he had taken with tongs from the altar, and he touched my lips. He touched my mouth and said, behold, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin atoned for. As Isaiah, I don't know if he's on his face, I don't know what, he's just going, I'm dead, he's going to kill me, he's going to kill me, this is it, I can't last in front of this God. And suddenly this angel goes, no, I'm going to cleanse you of all of that. Your sin's been atoned for. Someone just took care of your sins. Someone else paid for it. Someone else covered over it. It was all about what Christ was going to do. Man, what did Isaiah do to deserve that? See, he didn't say, hey, God, if you let me do this, I'll do... No. He just got to the end of himself and says, look, I'm a mess. I know I deserve your punishment. I know you should kill me. See, that's the first step for all of us. At some point to go, God, okay, I'm not a good person. Other people say I am or whatever, but I know the truth about me. When I stand in your presence, I'm nothing. I'm trash. And it's at that moment that God can forgive you. It's at that moment that you go, you know what, I need to be forgiven. Isaiah didn't do anything to earn his forgiveness. He just admitted his own sinfulness and his need for forgiveness. And then it's so cool because it ends on him saying, then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? Who will go for us? And then I said, here I am, send me. Because after that, God says, okay, I need a messenger on the earth. Okay, who's going to go? Who's going to be my messenger? Isaiah goes, take me. I'll do anything for you. I can't believe what you just did for me. You just spared my life. You just forgave me of everything. Send me. I'll say whatever these people need to hear. And God tells him, well, you're going to keep preaching, but they're not going to listen to you. He goes, I don't care. I just want to be your messenger. I just want to be used by you. I'll just say whatever you want me to say. You guys, I hope you get this. Man, I think most of us in this room played the game at some point where we just pretended, oh, I got my life together, I'm good, I've got a good relationship with God. Meanwhile, we had all sorts of things going on in our lives. And it's because a lot of us play this game, and I'm just saying there came a point in my life, I'm not saying I became perfect after that, but it's set me on this trajectory where I go, I'm not going to screw around with God. Okay, see, when you pray, what do you feel? Like, seriously. You know how I described that scene with Isaiah? Remember where he's just like, he sees God? I mean, what would you say at that moment when you saw God? If that were you, if you were in Isaiah's shoes, you see him on the throne, you see the lightning, the thunder, fire, the angels, everything shaking, and you approach the throne and you say something to him, what would be the first words out of your mouth? See, that's what we do when we pray. See, so often I used to just kind of casually close my eyes, lay in bed and go, hey, God, thanks for the day. Fall asleep praying. After I read passages like that, I go, man, that's who I'm talking to right now? That's a game changer. What I try to do, man, when I can remember, is I try to take like 10 seconds or so, even just 10 seconds before I pray and think about who I'm about to speak to. I go, I'm about to speak to him. Usually, if you take 10, 20, 30 seconds to think before you actually pray, it'll change everything you were about to pray. It just does. And I tell you, as I've been praying to God with that type of reverence, with an understanding of who he is, it's crazy how he answers prayer now. Listen, if I could leave you with something, it's that verse in that we just sang about. If our God is for us, who could stand against us? Think about it. If that God, who's determining everyone's breath, is for me, who's going to be against me? What can I hurt? That's why we say the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? See, it's like, people go, well, you're preaching this fear of God, but don't you understand the fear of God is what leads to life. The fear of God is what gives me security. The fear of God makes me not fear any of you. It's a great way to live. You just go, man, him, that God, he's with me. Can you imagine how Isaiah felt? Man, that God, he cleansed me and is using me. I'm his messenger. He goes, man, I'm not afraid of anything. Just send me wherever you want me to send. Where do you want me to go? Yes, that's what I want you to leave with, is a security where you go, man, if that God is for us, who could be against us? I want to pray right now, but I don't want to just say, hey, close your eyes. I'm going to close in prayer. You guys, would you just bow your heads for a second? Would you just close your eyes and bow your heads? And just forget that anyone else is in the room right now, okay? Just forget about where you are for a second. Forget anyone else in the room. Think about who we're about to talk to. Picture God in heaven right now. Just like Isaiah saw him, imagine you looking up and seeing this being on the throne, high and exalted, and the train of his robe fills the whole temple. Imagine the high angels covering themselves up, screaming, holy, holy, holy. Imagine everything shaking, filling up with smoke. And then you approach this God. Just talk to him. Just say whatever's on your mind at this moment. I believe there's a ton of confession going on right now. I believe a bunch of you are just sharing stuff that God already knows. And you're just confessing and saying, God, no one knows, but you know. Just let it out. God, tell him you need his forgiveness. Tell him you know you deserve his punishment, but you need his forgiveness. Thank him for the cross. Thank him that his son, that he watched his son being punished for you. Thank him for that if you believe that. Oh God, it's an honor to talk to you right now. I believe you're in heaven right now, and that you hear my voice because of Jesus, only because of Jesus. God, I know I've screwed up so much. It's only because of Jesus and what he did on the cross, when he paid for all of my sins and he conquered death. That's why I come before you. It's only because of Jesus. Thank you for sending him. Thank you that he died in my place. God, no one will ever love us like that. And God, we're sorry for the times when we're so casual about you, times when I pray and I don't even think about who I'm talking to. God, I can only pray because you let me. I'm only breathing and talking and thinking right now because you let me. Everything's in your hands, man. God, forgive us for the times we're so stupid to be arrogant and think we're something. God, we're nothing. Everything we have comes from you. And so, God, help us to be men who recognize that and live the remainder of our lives for you. God, because in the end, I want so badly for you to say, well done. I want to get past all my fears, all the times, man, when I chicken out and I don't want to talk about you. Times when I've been ashamed of you. God, that makes me sick. God, change us. Help us to fight the lust in our hearts. And the way we just care so much about things that won't matter in the end. God, help us to be your soldiers, to brag about you, to confess you before men. Make us courageous. I pray that you would create an army in this room. There's a bunch of guys that go, man, I don't even care what anyone thinks anymore. We just want to please you, Almighty God. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. We pray this all in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.